Welcome to VLearn. Today we start with the topic virtual memory, that is the second unit from block 2. In this we will cover following topics like virtual memory, demand paging, page replacement. First in first out are the algorithm inside the page replacement topic, and the second chance list recently used, that is the most important as similar optimal algorithm. Next is list frequently used and the similar. These are the paging topics like thrashing, work set model, page fault rate, demand segmentation, which we used in the memory, combined system. These all topics are very important according to the course content in your syllabus, and we have to consider all these topics for practical as well, and they are coming with the numericals, and all examples will covered in this session. Now come to the topics. First, virtual memory. The memory, as its name implies, which is not physically available, which is not physically present, and which we cannot be physically represent or show, and cannot justify that kind of memory, but it provide in somehow to support for executing programs, for supporting the content, for displaying the content, for resulting the content, and providing some backup support to the all kind of programs which we run and execute in our system. When we are doing some task, when we are performing some execution process and other task, this all undercomes inside the virtual memory. Now we start from this topic. In this is the structure which we follow in computers for memory purpose. In this, there is the beginning from larger capacity. If we start from the top, and if we come to down, it becomes the larger capacity to lower speed, lower cost, and the registers represents the temporary storage, or you can say the medium result holders as CPU. Next interface is the CPU cache, which provides the support between the main memory and register, perform as an interface between two memories, and it becomes more effective when we interact with the system. When we have to perform some task, then we request with the register, that will transform their request to CPU to main memory, and that will execute it. And if there is the requirement of retrieving some information or data from secondary storage, that kind of support taken by the main memory from secondary storage as well from the server side. So this is the way when we organized and memory organized inside the computer system for providing the support that can be online, that can be offline, for executing and performing the multiple tasks. Inside this we have lot of information, as the diagram shows. Register are the temporary storage, same logical way, the CPU cache, and the next is the main memory, which is also a temporary storage and which provide the support applications and functions only at runtime, and dynamic memory you can say it also. The next is secondary storage, which is a physical storage of data, and the last level, that is the server, which is also contain the information or data in a physical manner, and that can provide the support for another applications and multiple application at the runtime, and simultaneously it will respond in a same way to multiple applications. Now come to the next. What is virtual memory exactly? If you think it's there and it's there, it's real, it's not true, but it is there and it provides support, it's true. If you think it's not there and it's not there, it's transparent. Then if you think it's there and it's not there, it's imaginary. If you think it's not there and it's not there, it's non-existent. If we focus on the last word of every sentence, it's real, it's transparent, it's imaginary, it's non-existent. Every word represent virtual memory, because it's real, because it provide kind of support. It's transparent because it has that capacity to provide the support at runtime. It is transparent way to provide the support, because in physical manner, if we have the physical capacity and physical memory, that has the Only hidden layers inside the data is stored and runtime dynamically to provide the kind of support, and we can access the multiple data which is stored in the secondary storage. But in virtual memory, the data is only present, is existent, and that is imaginary. You cannot define how much space and how much memory it is supported and how much data it can display. It can provide the support for multiple data and multiple kind of applications, or multiple you can say multimedia, which is the combination of text, sound, images at runtime. If we have the very limited, you can say limited memory space in main memory, but if we have to display a data, a kind of application which is required a much larger memory as compared to that we have existing already, so it takes some kind of support and a kind of virtual space from the hard disk for providing the support for data, for generating and helping the execution and supporting the content, for providing the multiple applications, execution states and their results. Now come to the next, that is virtual memory is imaginary memory. It gives you the illusion of memory arrangement that's not physically there. As I told you and I am discussing with you, it is not physically available, but it provides support. You cannot say it's physically present, but it is present. It is not existent, but it is existent. Every word representing that virtual memory is there, but it's not physically present, and you cannot represent that memory in a physical way, in a logical way, but it provides a kind of support in logical way at the back end or behind the process in system. Now, virtual memory. Virtual memory as an alternate set of memory address which represent and provide a logical address and logical support for every data and instruction which is displayed and which is executing inside the system. Program use these virtual address rather than real address to store instruction and data. When the program is actually executed, the virtual address are converted into real memory address. So when we are executing any program and saving some content at runtime, and we are running some application and saving some content at runtime, that is stored in the system physically and allocate a virtual address space converted into the physical address space, and it will exist permanently inside the memory of the system. The next is why it is needed and why it is required for us for execution, for completion task and for multi-purpose. So before the development of the virtual memory technique, programmers in the 1940s and 1950s had to manage directly two level storage as main memory, as the RAM, and the secondary memory in the form of hard disk or earlier magnetic drums, which are used for the permanent storage and you can say the backup storage of the data. Enlarge the address space, the set of address a program can utilize. You can utilize and access the set of address spaces for executing the task. You can utilize them for their multi-purpose, for their execution, for their running time complexity, or everything inside this. And we concentrate on the virtual memory might contain twice as many addresses as main memory, because virtual memory has the virtual logical address also, but it provides the support for the physical storage data as well, and they have the physical address for every value which is stored in the disk, which is stored permanently in backing store as well. Now, what is object? When a computer is executing many programs at the same time, virtual memory make the computer to share memory efficiently. Virtual memory provide the kind of support to computer to operate multiple tasks at the same time and provide the support to multiple tasks at the same time for efficiently utilization of memory and for provide the optimum utilization of memory for execution and completion the task. Next, eliminate a restriction that a computer work in memory which is small and be limited. Suppose we have 1 GB RAM and the content which we have to display on the screen, that is the 2 GB or around 4 GB, or it can be much more. Then we have a limited memory space as a main memory, that is the 1 GB. In that scenario, what we have to do and what the system will do? System will occupy some memory space from the hard disk for few time or for some session duration. When the content is displayed on the screen, it will occupy some memory space as a virtual space from the hard disk for providing the support to the content that is displayed on the screen. After completion, the users of that temporary memory, that content will store back to the disk or any storage from where we access that data. And after that, the memory space which we access and which is taken by virtual memory for temporarily from the hard disk, that goes back to the hard disk and added into the space of hard disk or added into the space of physical memory. So the space which is taken as the temporary purpose from the hard disk by the main memory is that you can call it virtual memory. When many program is running at the same time by distributing each suitable memory area to each program, virtual memory protect programs to infer each other in each memory area. If we are executing and there is a lot of program executing inside the computer system at the same time, they prevent to interfere the other system, they prevent to interfere the other process which is running concurrently on the system or on the same system. By that way, we provide the multiple memory space for multiple processes in that area. Now, the next is, how does it work? To facilitate copying virtual memory into real memory, the operating system divides virtual memory into pages, each of which contains a fixed number of address. That pages hold some content and capable to holding the content, but every page has their independent and unique address for storing and for retrieving, for representing the content. Each page is stored on a disk until it is needed. Every page stores some content till it is required, until we store the further content and further allocation of the content. When the page is needed, the operating system copies it from disk to main memory, translating the virtual address into real address. Virtual address which is allocated for the some time and for the temporarily, it converted into the real address, and that address is held by content which is displayed on the screen. Means every content which is inside the computer for virtual memory, for physical memory or anywhere have some address for locating and for identifying their particular location. Next is memory management unit. The hardware base that makes a virtual memory system possible allows software to reference physical memory by virtual addresses and quite often more than one. If we have the multiple memories and we have to need to provide the support, a kind of operation which is required a dynamic memory or runtime memory, in that case we have the only one option to provide the virtual address space for executing that particular task. After completion of the task, we can reposition that memory which we taken as a temporarily to the allocated content from transferring the data and then revert back to the physical space. It accomplishes this through the use of page and page tables. Page tables having some reference in the index, and you can say having some reference in the offset, which page contains which memory location and which page stored in which memory location and have what kind of data. That is all information stored in the log table which is inside the system, and you can say that is the offset table for the pages. Use a section of memory to translate virtual address into physical address via series of table lookups. Table lookups are the kind of offset which provide the reference about the memory address, about the virtual address which is referenced with the physical address or referenced or mapped with the physical address with the mapping method. Next is use a section of memory which we discussed right now into physical address with a series of table of lookup which is also called the log table, and you can say the index or offset. The software that handles the page fault is generally part of an operating system. The software which handles the page fault problem that is the part of operating system, and that the hardware detect that kind of situation and resolve that problem. So what is page fault? Page fault is a process, and you can say is a kind of error which is occur due to the absence of content in the system, and we are still trying to access that particular content. If we want to access particular content or particular data, but that is not available inside the memory, then page fault is occur. Suppose a content ABC is stored in page 1, but after some time that page 1 is deleted from the memory, and still we are trying to access that page 1. So when we try to access the page 1, the page fault is occur because it is already removed from the memory. So page fault occur due to the absence of the page which is not currently present in the memory. What is paging? Paging provide a somewhat easier interface for program in that its operation tends to be more automatic and thus transparent. The pages which hold some content and references for execution, for processing, for another data storage have the transparent way for storing and transferring the information from virtual to physical memory or address space. Each unit of transfer referred to as page is of a fixed size and served by the virtual memory manager outside the program control, which we discussed in the previous slide. Instead of utilizing a segment, without segment we can use the index or offset addressing approach by mapping one page to another page, and by mapping their location inside the memory, that sequence of virtual address which are mapped to physical memory as necessary for accessing the content, because we required a kind of reference, kind of index, kind of offset for access the content inside the memory, but we always trying to access that particular data which we want to access and which we require from the particular location randomly. We do not want to go for searching that content sequentially or serially because it is very much time consuming. That's why we create offset or indexes in the operating system and in the other way for direct accessing or for providing the support, or do not want to waste of time for accessing the content or want to random access that particular content. So due to this addressing approach, a single program may refer to series of many non-contiguous segments. Non-contiguous segments are these segments which are continue inside the limits. As we discussed earlier, there is a lot of difference between the continuous and contiguous. Continuous means we know only the initial point, but it is continue right now and we don't know about the ending point. But in contiguous case, we know about the initial and ending point, and that thing is continue inside the limits. Suppose we have to print some value from 1 to 100. That is the contiguous process. Because we know the initial point is 1 and the ending point is 100, we have to continue all the processes which is required for printing that value to be continued till 100th value will print. That is the ending value, and that is the conditional. When the condition get false, the loop will terminate it and we come out from the loop. Next, paging is continued, a technique used by virtual memory operating system to help ensure that the data you need is available as quickly as possible. By using offset, by using index, we can access our required data as much as possible. The operating system copies a certain number of pages from your storage device to main memory for direct accessing and for providing the support of direct accessing. When a program needs a page that is not in main memory, the operating system copies that required page into memory and copies another page back to the disk for providing or for preventing the page fault. That content is copied into the disk as well the main memory. This is the abstract model of virtual to physical address mapping. In this, we have the physical memory between both virtual memory we have at left side and at right side virtual memory. In the next sequence, they both tables have their page table, which can say that it is an offset, it is an index which is mapped with the physical memory, and physical memory reference the page number, reference the page index, where it is located and where it has the content, and from where we can access that particular content. There is the two memories at left and right side, that is the virtual memory, and the left side is the process X and right side is process Y. Both are required physical memory and they are mapped with the process page table, which can be called the index table or which can be called as an offset. That offset is mapped with the physical memory, and physical memory reference and expected reference for the virtual memory. By that way we can access and store our data. By that way we can store our data into the physical memory. Suppose this is the virtual memory. From here it reference with the index table. Here is the index number where the reference is stored of this virtual memory, and this reference is mapped with the physical memory. In physical memory it is getting support at the page frame number 4 for storing or for retrieving the data. And the same manner in the left side in process X, there is a lot of page fault numbers which want to access in the process table, which is the index or offset of these page fault numbers, virtual page fault number, which reference in this, and that is reference at the physical memory where it is located and from where it getting the support for displaying or accessing the content. I think this is clear. Now the next is virtual memory paging. As we discussed in the previous slide, there is the page table which reference with the physical memory, and from where it is getting support for displaying, for executing, for performing the task, for accessing or retrieving the data, or for storing the data in the physical memory, and that way it can execute their task in different number of page tables. This is the virtual memory paging. Inside this, every page table is mapping with the physical address space or physical memory. As we discussed in the previous slide, every page section or every page frame mapped with the physical address from where it provides support and from where it is getting access from the memory. This is the virtual memory where the page table or the address space is mapped with the physical memory, and from where it is providing the storing access and it is providing the retrieving facility to the page tables for storage or for accessing. These multicolors represent these offset or references for this address space, and the dark color mapping with this, and these are the accessing with these tables. Now the next is demand paging. Demand paging is, you can say, the way to access the files on the requirement basis. When we require a particular page, we demand that particular page, and the multiple topics and the number of topics connected with this demand paging, like page fault, thrashing, recovering, every content is concerned with the demand paging. Now, what is demand paging? In virtual memory system, demand paging is a type of swapping in which pages of data are not copied from disk to RAM until they are needed. In contrast, some virtual memory system use anticipatory paging, in which the operating system attempt to anticipate which data will be needed next, copies it to RAM before it actually required. Accordingly, the data which is required and which is requested by the user, operating system will copy that content and will copy that data from physical address space and from physical memory and display that content into the user interface, or copy that content into the main memory, and from where it takes support and displays on the screen. So the next topic is Migration between memory and disk. Migration means transferring or changing between the two disks. Migration means transferring or forwarding the content or forwarding the control from one place to another place. Same manner, when a page is referenced either as a code execution or data access and that page is not in memory, then get the page from the disk and re-execute the statement. If we need some page or we need some content, we need some reference from the backing store. This is our backing store. From there, if we need some content or page we want to access and that is not available in memory, in main memory, then that content should be swap out from the memory and swap in into the main memory, and here we providing the support for particular execution and processing of the task. This is the migration between the memory and disk. Migration from the backing store to main memory and main memory to backing store. Now what is page fault? An interrupt to the software raised by the hardware when a program accesses a page that is not mapped in physical memory. We always trying to access some content from the physical storage and from the physical memory by using some offset or by using some index for accessing or for retrieving that particular page. If that page is not available inside the memory and frequently we trying to access that particular page and we are sending request for that particular page, then if page is not available, then it is called page fault. When a program accesses a memory location, its memory, and the page corresponding to that memory is not loaded, then the page fault will occur. When a program accesses a memory location in its memory and the program does not have privileges to access the page corresponding to that memory, then we can say the page fault is occurred. And same manner, now the steps in handling page fault. The process has touched a page not currently in memory. Any process requesting or accessing content from the pages not directly from the memory. Check an internet table for the target process to determine if the reference was valid. Internal table reference and getting the support from memory. If that reference is valid and that reference is available inside the memory, then it get the support and content is displayed on the screen. Otherwise, if find a free frame, a page of physical memory not currently in use may need to free up a page. If any page and any number of pages available in the memory and we are not accessing that content or not using that pages should be removed from the memory and new required content and new required pages should be loaded inside the memory in the swap in and swap out processes. When memory is filled, modify the page table to show the page is now resident and restart the instruction that failed. If we are accessing some content for particular task and that content and that page is not available inside the memory and page fault is occurring frequently, then we have to restart the instruction which is failed and then again process that query and request for the another pages which is available inside the memory. The next is steps in handling page fault. When we have to handle the page fault, we have to start from the loading of memory. From here we have to go for the trap from the index table for referencing that index table to the operating system, from where we have to go the backing store. If we are here from first step load of memory, then we get the index table or reference number from page table. That page table help us to go forward or to move on in the operating system, that provide us a reference for the backing store. From there we come back to the backing store and access the content on the free frame and map with the page table. There is the process when we are getting content and that is loaded into the memory and physical memory, and that will access here for loading the process and execute the task. Now this is the page replacement policies that are the very much important. The first is when memory is over allocated, we can either swap out some process or overwrite some pages. We have only two options if we require a multiple data inside the memory. To first condition, increase the memory size. Second, swap out that processes which are no longer to required, and to overwrite on the existing content or existing pages. So which page should we replace? Which page we have to replace and which page we have to require, that should be based on some algorithms. Here the goal is to minimize the number of faults. When a process needs a non-resident page which is not available inside the memory, the page and the operating system must decide which resident page is to be replaced by the requested page. The part of the virtual memory which makes this decision is called the replacement policy. The first algorithm is first in, first out. In first in, first out or in FIFO algorithm page replacement policy, choose the page that has been in the memory the longest to be the one replaced, and conceptually easy to implement. Either use a timestamp on pages or the session on pages or organize on a queue. The queue is by far the easier of the two methods. This is the first in first out method, in which the first is come value is 7 inside the page. These are the number of pages we have. The first come is 7, then comes is 0, then comes is 1. Now we have to enter or we have to place this 2 inside the page, and which one we have to replace according to the algorithm first in first out. The first value inserted is 7, that should be replaced with 2 on the basis of FIFO algorithm. The next value is 0, 0 is already available, then there is a no change. The next one is 3 is replaced with 0 because it is the accessing on first in first out basis. Now the further is 0 which is replaced with 1. Next is 4 for 2, and for replacement of 3 for 2, and we further continue this process. Are you getting this concept? Is that clear to you? Now come to the next type of algorithm, that is the second chance algorithm. In this policy is a slight modification of FIFO in order to avoid the problem of replacing a heavily used page. In this policy, a reference bit R is used to keep track of pages that have been recently referenced. In this, we reference and we replace that page which is recently referenced. This bit is set to 1 each time the page is referenced. Periodically, all the reference bits are set to 0 by the operating system to distinguish pages that have not been referenced recently from those that have been using this bit. If so, the page is moved to the end of the list of pages and its load time is updated as though it had just arrived in memory, which is just come inside the memory. Then the search continue. The heavily accessed pages are given a second chance. We provide the replacement and we provide the storing content inside the memory. Only that pages which are frequently using and which are frequently required is not replaced by the algorithm. Only that values, only that frames, only that holding value is replaced, which is no longer required inside the pages. So next is list recently used algorithm. In this algorithm we have to focus on these points. The first is replace that page which has not been used for the longest period of time. First priority to give for the replacement that value which is no longer required in the future of upcoming values. The second, result of this method considered favorable. The difficulty comes in making it work. Implementation possibilities. In this, we have to implement only those values which are required in future and which should not be replaced inside the memory. Both method needs hardware assist since the update must be done on every instruction. So in practice this is rarely done. this is the example for LRU algorithm, that is list recently used. In this we have to focus, replace that page which has not been used for the longest period of time. Result of this method considered favorable. The difficulty comes in making it work. Implementation possibilities. So the replacement is based on the basis of which page is no longer required in future. First, the value is entered is 7, the next is 0, next is 1. Now we have to replace 2 with the existing values. So we have 0 which is in future required here, and we have the 1 which is also required in future 1, but 7 value is the last value which is required at the end of this sequence. So we will replace that value which is no longer required. So the 7 is replaced from this page with the 2. Next is 0 which is already we have. The next value is 3. Now 3 is replaced with 1 because 1 is no longer required in the future upcoming series, because 2 is near future we required and 0 is the next one we required, but 1 is come after the some sequence of bits. So 1 is replaced. Now the next 0 is already there, then no effect. Then we have to replace the 4. In 4 we have to replace the value because with the 2. So the replacement is applied and with the value exists here 2 and place we have 4. The next is upcoming is 2, that is not replaced because it is replaced with the 3, this one, and the same process is followed till the end for implementing this algorithm. Now the next is optimal algorithm. In the optimal algorithm, this is the replacement policy that result in the lowest page fault, in which we have to prevent from the maximum page fault. We have to replace that values which may cause of lowest page fault. So impossible to achieve in practice, require a crystal ball for replacing the value. We are taking consider for placing this value with, this is the replacement policy that result in the lowest page fault rate. So we place with the 0, 7, start with the 7, then 0, then 1, next is replaced with 7, 2, 0 is there, next is 3, replaced with 1. Now start from the beginning, 0 with this, and next is 4 which is replaced with this because it is just placed, and the next one is 2 which is placed already here, then 3 already here, then we have to replace 0, that is replaced with 4. So same sequences follow till the end for optimal algorithm. Now the next one is least frequently used algorithm. The least frequently used algorithm replacement policy. Select a page for replacement if the page had not been used often in the past. So this policy keeps count of the number of times that a page is accessed. Page with the lowest count are replaced while page with higher count remain in primary memory. We have to replace that particular page which is not accessed maximum time. We have to replace that page which is very low accessed inside the primary memory, which is required number of time pages are not replaced. So in least frequently used algorithm, we will replace only that value which is frequently used, but do not replace that is which do not replace value which frequently used. We replace only that value which is no longer needed and which is no longer used from the previous time. Now the next topic is thrashing. In thrashing we have to go back in the previous topics as like paging, as like page fault. These are connected with this topic. We have to come from the page. Pages are the segmented. Pages are the number of divisible storage or holding bits. If number of pages are there and we are trying to access particular page which is not available into memory, that cause of the page fault. If frequently page fault is occur inside the primary memory or memory, that is called thrashing. So page fault, absence of the page inside the memory cause of page fault, and frequently page fault cause for the thrashing. Now come for this formal meaning. Thrashing occurs when a system spends more time processing page fault than executing transaction. When a system frequently facing the page fault problem, then we can say it face the thrashing problem. While processing page fault, it is necessary to be in order to appreciate the benefit of virtual memory. Thrashing has a negative effect on the system. Next is, suppose there are too few physical pages less than the logical pages being actively used. This reduces CPU utilization and may cause increase in multiple programming. When we are doing multiple tasks simultaneously and we are maximum utilizing the CPU, then it help in the multiple programming, and it, you can say, support the multi-programming process needs defined by the locality. A program will thrash if all pages of its locality are not present in the working set. Two programs thrash if they fight each other too violently for memory. If they are trying to access the content and which is not available, and frequently that kind of page fault is occurring, so we can say thrashing is occur frequently. This is the notation and representation of thrashing. Thrashing becomes a greater threat as the degree of multi-programming of the system increasing. In this is the way of accessing the content, but after this stage it goes for the thrashing, because after this stage it is accessing and it is requesting for the number of pages but that are not available inside the memory, and frequently page fault is occur. So after this stage it goes to the thrashing stage. Now to prevent thrashing, we must provide a processes as many frames as it needs. There are two techniques for this working set model and page fault rate. First, working set model, locality of reference. Program access memory near where they last access it. The principle of locality states that most references will be to the current small set of pages in use. The examples are shown below. First, instructions are fetched sequentially when we are accessing the content, when we are focusing the content which is stored inside the memory. It can be physical, it can be virtual, or it can be any dynamic memory. If we are accessing the content sequentially, that comes under the working set model. In this, array processing usually proceed sequentially through the array function repeatedly, because array is also a part of sequential access variable in the top stack in frame. You can say stacks and FQ is also part of this, which allow the sequential access and which are linear in fashion. So working set model represent the sequence of bit which can be accessed, which can be processed sequentially or serially in a working set. If a page is in active use, it will be in the working set. If it is no longer being used, it will drop from the working set. In working set model, we will carry only those pages which is required and which we needed for processing, for executing the task. What is page fault rate? The working set model is successful and knowledge of the working set can be useful for pre-paging. Pre-paging represent to show that content which is required in future should be pre-planned and should be prepared before its requirement. A page fault frequency takes a more direct approach. In this, we establish upper and lower bound on the desired page fault rate. If the actual page fault rate exceeds the upper limit, means we have the limit and we have the condition how much page fault can occur at the same time. If it going beyond from this limit, then we allocate the process to the another frame. If the page fault rate falls below the lower limit, we remove a frame from the process and directly measure the control of page fault rate for preventing from the thrashing. Because if page fault occur frequently, it goes and it allows the process to enter into the thrashing stage. Now, pre-paging, bring lots of pages into memory at one time, either when the program is initializing or when a fault occurs. So, in the next case, uses the principle that a program often use the page right after the one previously accessed. Means the page should be accessed which is previously be accessed. Consider inside the principle that a program, and that is the pre-page planning and pre-page processing. The page which is required in near future, the page which is requested in near future should be pre-buffered and should be prepared to representing or for showing the content inside the memory. Now come to the demand segmentation. That is a kind of demand which is as similar in somehow and similar in somehow as demand paging, but segmentation contains the number of pages and it is a kind of block which hold number of pages inside their block. Segmentation involve the relocation of variable sized segment into the physical address space. Generally, these segments are contiguous units and are referred to in programs by their segment number and an offset to the requested data. As we discussed earlier, every data and every information which is existing and which is residing inside the any device or any memory have some unique address, and that address is referenced inside the offset table or index table, from where we get the reference to access that particular data at storage locations. Since segmentation relies on memory that is located in single large block, is very possible that enough free space is available to load a new module but cannot be utilized. In that case, we have a large memory spaces, but we are not going to be utilized properly that space and store the content in chunks in different location which represent the content is stored, but the memory disk is not properly utilized. In that case, we have to defragment that particular disk for providing the free space at very particular location and used space at other locations. That help us for storing or accessing the data frequently and comparatively very fast. So, since segmentation relies on memory that is located in a single large block, it is very possible that enough free space is available to load a new module but cannot be utilized properly, as we discussed earlier. Segmentation may also suffer from the internal fragmentation if segments are not variable sized, where memory above the segment is not used by the program but is still reserved for it. In that case, and it is showing a process which we are required to execute and which we have to execute, we allocate some memory space to that particular process, but that particular process is reserved for that particular task and that particular memory space is reserved for that particular process, but that is not utilized properly and that is not frequently required for executing that particular task. That kind of memory space not very much helpful in segmentation. We have to divide that segments which are frequently asked and frequently accessed for retrieving and storing the content, which help us in the offset for direct accessing and for direct retrieving and storing the data. Next is demand segmentation. In this, if a segment is loaded, base and limit stored in the segment table entry, and the valid bit is it in the page table. This is going to be explained the previous example, which comes into the 20th or 25th slide range. In this, we have to reference the limit register and we have to map that virtual space with the physical address space offset number or index number. In that range, we have to store and we have to access the content. If that range is going beyond the limit, then we are not able to access that particular file, and that causes of the page fault. A reference to a non-loaded segment generate a segment fault. To load a segment, we must solve both placement question and the replacement question. Placement of the position that is first or fresh or newly allocated to a memory, and the replacement question is that in which we have already data on the memory location and that should be replaced with the new one. The next topic is combined system. In this, we have the segmented paging. Segment are divided into number of pages. Implementation require segment table register, and you can say offset segment register, and PMT page map table, which help to map with the offset number and memory reference number, that the segment number indexes into segment table, which yields the base address of the page table for the segment. In the same way, the page number indexes into the page table, which help each entry to access inside the frame, and adding the page frame number and the offset result in the physical address space, which help us to access directly at particular memory location. We need not to be search out in the whole memory for access or for locating the particular content. Now the next is page segmentation. Sometimes segment table or page table may be too large to keep in physical memory for storage or for retrieving the data. They can even reach the MB in the MB or megabyte size. Therefore, the segment table is divided into pages too, and thus a page table of ST pages, segment table pages, is created. The segment number is broken into page number S1, S2, S3 of a page table of ST pages. So by that way we can access the number of locations by using the offset number or index number, and that offset number or index number can be help us for referencing the page table, segment table, fragments, frames, everything, and every memory location and every notation of the memory storage have the index number and offset number for referencing, which help to access the comparatively fast data and which provide the user interface for accessing, storing and retrieving the content. Now the next unit is we start Block 2, Unit 3, Input Output. This is the unit which contains input, output and file management. In this we discuss about the input output inside the files, writing the content, buffering the content, device driver which are required, and disk scheduling, in which we have to schedule the storage and we have to represent the number of values in first come first serve basis, shortest term first, scan, C-scan scheduling. In all of these, this scheduling method, we represent the storage referencing how to store data and how to access that data. The first we are starting with the introduction of file. File is a collection of related information defined by its creator commonly. File represent programs and data, and you can say file is a container and file is a storage which holds content and notations which are required for the programs, which are required for the data, for further processing and for further feature use. We need to create some files for storing, for accessing, for retrieving the content, for future as well as the currently running files. The operating system is responsible for the following activities with the file management. The first is creation and deletion of file, in which we need to create in respect of our requirement and in respect of the process requirement for storing the data. Deletion of files as per the requirement, if we have to replace and we have to overwrite some content on the table. The creation and deletion of directory, like a folder, you can say, which store and which perform as a container to holding the multiple file inside it. The support of primitive for manipulating files and directories. And the next is the mapping of files onto disk storage. The next topic inside the file management, which is managed by the system, is backup of file on stable storage, in which we can recover the content as per our requirement. If there is any problem in storage, we can recover our content from that files. Next is organization of the input-output function. The key concept in input-output software designing is device independence achieved by using uniform naming, in which we have to define the name uniform and you can say the unique names. If we are storing some files inside some directories and inside some folder with the same name, then they can override the content of one or each other or one to another files. So that's why we need to store every file inside the folder with a different name, and you can differentiate it by providing the sequence number as well, like file 1, file 2, file 3, in that manner. So the basic idea is to organize the input-output software as a series of layers, with the lower ones hiding the physical hardware and other complexities from the upper ones that present simple regular interface and interaction with the user, because these files and directories interact directly by the user who access these files and who store the content in these files for further future use and for processing the content. So these files need to carefully to store inside the memory and require some kind of backup to recover these files from the storage. Input-output software can be structured in the following 4 layers. Organization of the file input-output functions. First, interrupt handler, which interrupt one process to another process on the basis of their priority, on the basis of their referencing. The next is device driver, which is used for referencing and which is used to providing the support or to used for providing the interface for interactivity, to make interactive the particular device. And the device independent operating system software are the software which works on that particular device and the other device as well. The next is user level software, which are the kind of application softwares which is used by the particular user and which can be varies according to the user requirement and user to user. The next is input-output buffering. A buffer is an intermediate memory or area under operating system control that stores data in transit between two devices or between user's work area and device. It allows computation to proceed in parallel with input-output. In this, they are allowed to access and they are allowed to process the multiple programs and processes simultaneously for storing or retrieving the content by providing the multiple device support for taking input and output. Reasons for buffering. Process must wait for input-output to complete before proceeding. Certain pages must remain in main memory during input-output process. If we are accessing some content and if we are doing some task, then some content and some data is always present in the buffer. If we are not accessing any file and if we are not going to execute any task, then also there is some files and content is present inside the buffer for the operating system processes. Now the next topic is unbuffered transfer. In the unbuffered transfer situation, the processor is idle for most of the time waiting for data transfer to complete, and total read processing time is the sum of all the transfer read time and processor time. It represents the content which we need to read from the buffer have to transfer from the directly of the physical space or the other memory to the disk to operating system, and if the content is stored from the operating system to disk, that should also transfer directly from the operating system to the backing store for the further processing. That is the unbuffered transfer. In this, the content and the data is not held and not pre-planned for display on the screen, and not pre-request is ready to content for replacing the existing content that is loaded into the memory as per requirement and again back to store in the backing store as per the requirement is complete. Now the next topic is single buffer. Operating system assign a buffer in main memory for an input-output request, for accepting the input from the user, for generating the output to user, and for other processes. There should be a buffer, and there is always a buffer is present for that kind of process in every devices. In case of single buffer transfer, block are first read into a buffer and then move to the user work area. Every content which is displayed on the user screen and every content which is present for user for processing or completing the task should buffered before to display on the screen and then display after the buffer. The first sequence to access the content from physical memory come or enter into the buffer system, then from the buffer it will display on the screen. In case of single buffer transfer, block are first read into a buffer and then move to the user work area where user performing their task as per their need. This represents the user work area, and the data which is coming out from the backing store or the physical drive first come inside the buffer or at the operating system level. That buffer provides the support that content to display on the user screen or user area. Next is double buffer. A pair of buffer is used. Blocks records generated by a running process are initially stored in the first buffer until it is full. Then from this buffer it is transferred to the secondary storage for the further processing. When the other process come, they are stored in second buffer, and this goes in alternate manner, and this process will continue till the process is complete and till the requirement is complete. This is the area and this is the notation of double buffer. When the user requesting for some task that should be come inside the buffer, and that is also replaced in the user work area. And at the same time, if another buffer is required and user performing the multiple tasks on the system, then another buffer is created, and the another buffer is used for providing the support to the another application at the user work area. In this single user performing the multiple tasks, that's why we require multiple buffer for providing the support for particular applications. Next topic is disk organizations. In disk come in different shapes and sizes. The most obvious distinction between floppy disk and disks and hard disk. Every one comes in different size and have some different characteristics. Floppy disk mostly come into the 1.44 MB. Diskettes comes inside the 750 to 700 MB, or it can be 800 MB. The hard disk and the other disk will come in the GB's form, or it can be TB form. Hard disk normally consists of several stacked on top of one another. On one another, we can store the multiple data and multiple files for representing or for retrieving the content as per the requirement for executing the task. A hard disk spins at a constant speed while the rotation of floppy drive is switched on and off. Always hard disk start the booting process or the processing the content from the physical storage. It loads the operating system into the user area, and that provide an interface to user to interact with the devices, to interact with the applications which are stored on that particular computer system. This is the kind of disk organization in which number of layers are there. These layers are put it onto the spindle. These layers move on when we system is on and it is starting the system and we shutting down the system. These disks are moved around the spindle and spins around the spindle, and these read-write head help us to read the content as per the requirement, to read the operating system files from this disk for providing the interface to user. The next topic is disk performance parameters. In disk performance parameters, we have to check it out how much time is required and how much time taken by a system or by a particular device for executing a particular task and for performing that particular task. A separate read head is provided for each surface stepper motor at this level, like this, at the every layer or at the every track surface, which is read by this head. To make the disk access quicker, tracks are usually divided up into number of sectors and the data is stored in the sectors form. The seek time is the time required for the disk arm to move the head to the cylinder with the desired sector. You can say the seek time is the time taken by a system, time taken by a head from the hard disk for displaying or for reading the content from the disk files. The rotational latency is the time required for the disk to rotate the desired sector until it is under the read-write head. Next is disk scheduling policies. Seek time is the reason for differences in performance because it represents the time taken by a particular device, the time taken by a particular resource from the disk reading content. The rotational latency is the time required for the disk to rotate the desired sector or to display the desired content on the screen after applying the request on that particular sector. The disk bandwidth is the total number of bytes transferred per unit time in the scheduling algorithms or in the scheduling method. A scheduling policy should attempt to maximize throughput and also to minimize mean response time. Response time is the time which is taken by a system after accepting a request. Suppose we are accessing a file F1 from the system and we click on that particular file and request for that particular file at T1 time, and that file is displayed on our screen at T4 time. So the time taken by this is the time of accessing and time of response for displaying the content in our screen. Now the next is first come first served scheduling algorithm. In this, the simplest disk scheduling technique, there is no reordering of the queue. In this, the first content which come, then we move on according to that. If there is the content is 50, 91, 150, 42, 130, 18, 140, 60, 70, then we will move accordingly. In that case, we have the question, the number of sequence is 50, then we come to 50, then next is 91, next is 150, after 150 we have the value of 42, then we'll come at 42, then next is 130, then we come on 130, the next value is 18, then we come back at 18, and then is 140, we go for 40, 140, and then we'll go for 70, and then go for 60. The same scenario is used in this algorithm because the algorithm based on first come first served basis. The next algorithm is shortest seek time first, which responds at the earliest time. The same question is here, but we arrange that question at near locations. If we are starting with the 50, then the nearby location is we have 42, and then nearby is 60, then 70, then 91, then accordingly we'll go for the last at 150, and the next value is 18, then that's why we come at 18. Now the next is scan scheduling. In this, ARM moves in one direction only, satisfying all outstanding requests until it reaches the last track in that direction. When we go in one direction, then we'll complete all the nodes which come in the same direction. Like we are at 50 and we move for the 42, then we'll go at the same to the till end position, and every node covered inside this direction which comes in this direction. After reaching at the end of in this direction, we will move to the opposite direction and will cover all the nodes which come in that particular direction, as the next one is come 60, after that comes 70, then 91 will go till end position in the same way. The next is C-scan scheduling. In this, restrict scanning to one direction only. When the last track has been visited in one direction, the arm is returned to the opposite end of the disk and the scan begins again. Look and C-look scheduling are the part of this kind of scheduling. The head move only till final request in each direction, first and last one, and immediately reverses direction without going to end of the disk. So the first is red, that is redundant array of inexpensive disk. Disks have high failure rate and hence there is the risk of loss of data and lots of downtime for restoring and disk replacement. The next point for this is its organization is based on disk strapping, which uses a group of disks as one storage unit and which represent the number of levels in the group of organization where we store the data in a number of storage units form. The next is disk strapping is a way of increasing the disk transfer rate up to a factor of n by splitting files across n different disks, which are created for storing the number of files into the number of disks inside the available space, for providing the maximum support for storing and retrieving the data into multiple levels. RAID have number of levels inside it for storing the data and for devising the data at the physical or at the storing layer. The next topic is disk cache. Disk caching is an extension of buffering. A cache is a collection of blocks that logically belong on the disk, which represent the disk, which have the reference with the disk, but are kept in memory for performance reasons. For increase the performance, we have the multi-programming environment or in disk file servers, which maintain a separate section of main memory called disk cache. The cached buffer in memory are copies of the disk blocks, and if any data here is modified, only its local copy is updated. The data which is locally generated and have the copy inside the memory should be modified and updated. So to maintain integrity, we have to update that blocks and transfer that block back to the disk. The next topic is command language user's view of the file system. At this level, the most important aspect of a file system is its appearance from the user's point of view, in which we have to store and we have to represent the data in such a manner by that the user can easily access that files and store that content inside the memory. The internal details like the data structure used for free storage management, number of sectors in a logical block are of less interest to the users. From a user's perspective, a file is the smallest allotment of logical secondary storage, in which we have to store the data from where we can access the data as per the requirement of the process or as per the requirement of the task. The next topic is the system programmer's view of the file system. In this, we have to store and we have to represent the content from the file system in such a manner a programmer can easily understand and can easily design the content on that basis, which the content represent inside the memory, and utilize that content for the efficiently implementation of programs. The system programmer design view for the file system is mainly concerned with the details issues like whether linked list or simple arrays are used for keeping track of free storage, and the another memory locations and another memory methods are also used as like queue, as like stack. These all are the linear structures for storing or accessing the content and have the index values for accessing or for providing the random access on the particular data. Now, the next is the operating system view. There is the three view comes. One is user view, another is programmer view. Now the operating system's view of file management. In this, it logically manages all the files or all the content inside the memory space. The operating system abstract from the physical properties of its storage devices to define a logical storage unit and the files. The operating system is responsible for the following activities in regard to the file system, as the creation and deletion of files, which we discussed earlier in the previous slides, the creation and deletion of directory, which hold the number of files, and the support of system calls for files and directories manipulation, which apply and which allow the user for their requirement or for increase the efficiency of system or the programs to update and modify the existing files for future reference and for further enhancements, the mapping of files onto the disk for referencing and for random accessing the content. So backup of files on stable storage media is also helpful when we are accessing non-volatile content. There is the difference between the volatile and non-volatile content. Non-volatile content is that content which is permanently stored inside the physical memory spaces, and volatile content is that content which can removed and which cannot recover in case of failure or in case of suddenly shutdown of the system or suddenly arises due of the problem. The content is not saved in physical memory. Next is file directories. Contains information about files that hold number of attributes which represent the details of file, location where the located is file, ownership, who is the owner and who is the creator of that particular file, who have the number of rights for applying or for updating the content inside the file, that particular file. So directory itself is a file owned by the operating system for representing some attribute, for representing the detail about the log files, for representing the details about itself, provides mapping between file names and the files themselves. They have the kind of log which store the information about the files and their referencing offsets. The next is file directories, which also have the number of operations performed on the directory or file system are creation, deletion, modifying and search for particular file by using its name, by using its index number. Mechanism for sharing number of files should provide controlled access like read operation, write operation, execute or various combination for that particular files. Now the next one is list the files in a directory and also contents of the directory entry. Renaming a file when its contents are uses change or file position needs to be changed as per the process requirement or as per the user requirement. Now the next one is file directory. In this, backup and recovery capabilities must be provided to prevent accidental loss or malicious destruction of information from the system. Next point, traverse the file system at least once for getting the result and for getting the status about the file information, how many information is there and how much will required for processing or recovering the content. There are many types of directory system are there. First, single level directory, two level directory, tree structure, cyclic graph and general graph directory. This directory structure in the next class from this slide. Thank you.